In the CMS4, the list module was used, like you see here, on the Department of Statistics page. In the CMS5, we've changed this slightly, and now you would access the list module from the left-hand side underneath Forms and Lists. When you click on Forms and Lists on the left-hand side, you will be brought to this page. Now, you will want to click on the button that says New Form or List. This will take you to this screen here, which you will need to select what you're trying to build. Here is a brief breakdown of what each one of these items mean and how they work in the CMS. The first item is Public Form. This is exactly what you had in the CMS4 that we called the Form Builder. Next is what we call Public List. This is exactly what was in the CMS4 as the List module. Two more options here is Public Form and List. What this means is that you can create a public form and a public list, but people will be able to visit the form, fill it out, and then their entries would appear on that list. The entries that are entered would then require administrator approval before it's being visible on your website. Last is the hidden. This would be a form that would be only accessed to administrators in the CMS5 and would never be able to be viewed by the public. For this example, we are going to create a public list. First thing you need to do is give this a title. So I'm going to call this Example List. Then there are a lot of different checkboxes here which you can enable and disable things. To keep it simple, you would simply want to scroll down all the way to the bottom and click Continue. So the first step we're going to do is we're going to add in the first name and the last name fields. So to do that, I'm going to click on this button here that says Text Box. When this appears, I'm going to edit it. And then for the field name, I'm going to enter in what it is that we want. So in this example, we're going to say first name. Then you can ask if it's a required field, what type of field it is, and will this be displayed all the time or before or after a certain date. Next, you want to pay attention to these two checkboxes here. If you check both of these boxes, this means that the particular field or the entry will be visible to the public. So if you're creating a list and you want the column and the entry to appear, you will want to make sure that both of these boxes are checked. Then, once you're done, click on the Save Changes button. So the next field we want to add is for last name. So what I'm going to do to make it simple is click on this button here that says Copy Text Box, and you can see it duplicates it. And then I'm going to edit the second field that we just added and just change it to say last name. So the next field we want to add is for the email address. So to do that, I'm going to click on the text box and add that into our list. Then I'm going to edit the text box, and for the field here, I'm going to type in email address. We'll make it required, but something that you want to pay attention to is the field type, particularly when you're using an email, a phone number, or a website address. So for this example, we're going to select email. You can see there are some additional settings here. These are more applicable to creating a form. And then, as always, you'll want to double check to make sure, do you want this to be visible, and make sure these two boxes are checked. Now that I've done that, I click on Save Changes, and you can see how that field has the example email in the background. Now that we've added in the different columns or the different fields that we want in our list, the next step would be to go back to our Forms and List, and then where our example list is, click on this button that says Entries. When you click on Entries, you can then click on this button that says New Entry, and then all the fields that we just added should be present. So for our example, you can see that I filled in my information for the first name, last name, email address, and then underneath where it says Public Visibility, you need to select if you want this entry to be visible or hidden. I'm going to choose Visible and then Submit. Now you can see that we have our first entry within our new list. So I could continue to add in more entries if I wanted to build up this list. But for our example, if I go back to Forms and List, underneath the example list, you can see we have the one entry, which was the one that I just put in there. And then what I want to show you is this button here says Public List. And when I click on it, you can see this is the list that we're now creating. It has the 3 different fields that I've added, the first name, last name, email address, and then it also has the actual entry that I put in there. If I click on the View button, if I had more entries or more options in here, it would also view those as well. Now that we've created our list and we've added an entry into it, let's get that list onto a page. So to do so, what I'm going to do is go back to the content, and I'm going to add a new content item. I can choose a template if I want to, but for our example, I'm going to start blank. In the name, let's call this List Example. And then once we get down to the actual content of the page, what you're going to want to do is click this button down here that says Library. And then over here on the left-hand side, you can see we have an entry for lists. This is our example list. And if I click on it, you can see it adds that list to our page. Now I can make that as large or as small as I want to, and then I'm going to hit Publish to create that page. Now let's click on Preview and we can take a look at what that looks like. And you can see here's our list example, and there is our actual list that we've now created.